Is part 2 of chapter 11, section 1. What is it called? From Republic to Empire. And we're going to start with the reading check question. I'm also going to start my timer so I keep it close to 10 minutes. All right. So the reading check sequencing. How did Caesar gain power in Rome? Well, it started by him being a really good army general and having his army like him. And then specifically, he crossed the Rubicon and declared civil war in Rome. And then he fought the general Pompey, who was his friend. And then Pompey got killed. Well, Caesar had him killed. And then when he came back to Rome, he declared himself dictator or ruler for life, dictator for life, meaning I am the sole person in charge. I get to make all of the decisions, right? Now, the problem is that his life was cut very short, literally. On March 15th in 44 BC, a group of 27 senators came together and conspired to kill Caesar to save the Republic, or at least save their power because Caesar was taking it away from them. However, of those 27 people who said, we will kill Caesar and stab him, there were only 6 stab wounds. So either one person stabbed him 6 times or 6 people stabbed him once. Either way, it ended Caesar's life, but not all 27 people ended up participating in the actual execution of Julius Caesar. Okay, so the end of the Republic. After Caesar's assassination, 2 great leaders emerged to take control of Roman politics. One was Caesar's former assistant, Marc Antony, and the other was Caesar's adopted son, Octavian, who is later called Augustus. So this is where it gets a little confusing because there's this guy named Octavian, and he changes his name to be Augustus. It's actually where we get the month August from, is from Augustus, because we use the Roman calendar. It's one of the achievements that Rome did. So there are 2 people right now that you need to know about, and that is Marc Antony and Octavian / Augustus. Okay? They are BFFs, and they are both very, very loyal to Caesar. So Octavian is actually Caesar's adopted son. So he's not his biological son, but he is his adopted son. So for all practical purposes, for what anybody considers or cares about, Octavian was Caesar's son. Okay, so we're just going to start that off. So after Caesar is dead, so after his assassination, there is a power void. They're like, oh, who's going to be in charge? Marc Antony and Octavian take over. So here we go. This is also going to help answer question 2A and 2C is going to be in this section about Antony and Octavian. One priority for Antony and Octavian was punishing the men who killed Caesar. The murderers had thought they would become heroes and said they were forced to flee for their lives. Rome was shocked by Caesar's murders. Many people loved Caesar, and riots broke out after his death. In order to end the chaos that followed Caesar's assassination, the Senate had to act quickly and restore power. So again, these 27 people thought, hey, we're gonna be heroes. And they weren't. They were considered criminals, and they had to flee. They had to run away from Rome and Italy in order to try to survive. Spoiler alert. At Caesar's funeral, Antony delivers a famous speech that turned even more Romans against the killer. Shortly afterward, he and Octavian set out with an army to try to avenge Caesar's death. The army caught up to the killers near Philippi in northern Greece. In 42 BC, Antony and Octavian soundly defeated their opponents. After the battle, the last of Caesar's murderers killed themselves. So those 27 senators who all took part, even though 6 of them only did stabby, all of them were hunted down and killed by Antony and Octavian. Or they got cornered to the point where they're like, my choice is flee or death, and flee is no longer an option, so my choice is death or death. I choose to die the way that I would like to die, as opposed to the very brutal way that Octavian and Marc Antony are going to choose for me. So my personal advice, when you have the chance to run away, if your choice is run away or death, choose run away. They ran out of options, though, and that's going to happen a lot in Rome. So all of the people who were responsible for Caesar's death are gone. And so now you have Marc Antony and Octavian, who are the de facto or the result of leaders of Rome. Octavian becomes emperor. After the Battle of Philippi, Octavian returned to Italy. Antony went east to fight Rome's armies. In 40 BC, Antony marries Octavian's sister, Octavia. Now, I'm sure that wasn't confusing growing up, getting called and yelled, Octavian, Octavia, Octavian, like, what did you want, me or my sister, right? So, but, like I said, Marc Antony and Octavian are BFFs. They're best friends. So I'm sure when Marc Antony went up to Octavian and said, dude, can I marry your sister? He was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. Then we get to be brother-in-laws. Like we're real brothers, not just like friends. So yeah, it was great. And remember, there are two people that are leading the armies. And so Octavian is in charge of the army that's in Italy. And Marc Antony takes his army and he goes outside of Italy to go fight other wars. Okay. So for 8 years, everything is awesome. Like the guys are getting along. Marc Antony is married to Octavia. Everything is great. 8 years later, however, he divorces her. So Marc Antony divorces Octavian's sister, Octavia, to marry Cleopatra, the queen of Egypt. Told you there was intrigue and drama. Octavian saw this divorce as an insult to his sister and himself. Needless to say, Octavian and Marc Antony are no longer BFFs. So Marc Antony gets completely ousted, and Octavian is super angry at Marc Antony and Cleopatra. So this is like a whole story. You can YouTube and look for videos and stuff like that, or do extra research about the whole Marc Antony, Cleopatra, Octavian, Octavia, this like rivalry that happens. But the long and the short of it is that Antony's behavior led to a civil war in Rome. So remember, two people in charge of the army and the government, they're now fighting each other. So Marc Antony and Octavian are now fighting each other in a civil war. So Antony's private life and this divorce causes a civil war in Rome. So like today, divorce is pretty common and stuff. Like, could you imagine a civil war, two armies fighting each other because one group of people decide they don't want to be married anymore? Man, that's like so out there, but it's what happened in ancient Rome. So we're on the second paragraph. Antony's behavior led to a civil war in Rome. In 31 BC, Octavian sent a fleet, so a navy, a bunch of boats, to attack Antony. Antony sailed out to meet it, and the two forces met just west of Greece in the Battle of Actium. Antony's fleet, so Antony's navy or boats were defeated, but he escaped, and he fled back to Egypt with Cleopatra, where they thought they were going to get help and everything, but it turned out they didn't get any help. And so there the two committed suicide so they wouldn't be taken prisoner by Octavian, because you can bet that Octavian was not going to be nice to them. Octavian then became Rome's sole ruler. Over the next few years, he gained nearly limitless power. He took the title princeps, or first citizen. In 27 BC, Octavian announced that he was going to give up his power to the Senate, but in reality, he kept all of his power. The Senate gave him a new name, Augustus, which means revered one. Modern historians consider the naming of Augustus the mark of the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the Roman Empire. Okay, so let's break this down just a little bit because, again, the textbook glosses over a bunch of the history here. So, again, given the choice of flee or death, choose flee. But when your enemy's at you cornered and there is no other option, Marc Antony and Cleopatra took the same end as a whole lot of other Roman leaders did, and non-Roman leaders, like Hannibal did it as well. Like back in the last chapter when we read about the Punic Wars, like Hannibal got captured and he went, I'm going to kill myself over being taken a Roman prisoner. You have the senators who killed Caesar going, I'd rather kill myself than being taken prisoner. And now Marc Antony and Cleopatra are coming to the same fate. Lots of death during Rome. So Octavian, when he becomes the only person in charge, he's like his father. He's like Julius Caesar. He is the sole person in charge. He learned from Caesar, and he learned that from Caesar's mistake. And Caesar's mistake was that he declared himself dictator. He just flat out didn't care what the Senate thought. He flat out didn't care what it might look like to the average person. He just went, dude, I have all the power. I'm taking it. Now, Octavian learned from that and went, I have to be a little bit more crafty on how I take all of the power. So I'll make it look like I'm not taking the power. I'll look like I'm getting it and I have no other choice. So Octavian tells the Senate, I give all my power to you. I will not make any of the decisions. You are completely in charge. However, he's not. Like, the Senate knows it's not real, but they can't do anything about it because if they try to challenge him, they know that they're going to end up the same fate as the 27 other senators and Marc Antony and Cleopatra. They know that Octavian isn't going to back down. And so when he makes this public display to the average Roman citizen of like, look at me, I'm giving up all my power, the Senate has no choice but to call him Augustus and to name him precepts, or the first citizen, going, oh, you have done so much for our country of Rome and for all of this empire and everything that we have. That would you please take this power back? Would you please be the one to tell us what to do? And so he was like, oh, well, I guess if I must be the one in charge, I'll be the one in charge. So it's all a display. It's all drama, right? It's all a play that Octavian says, I'll step down and not take any power. And the Senate going, no, 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 you take all the power. But in the end, he got to do what his father never could. He gets to rule Rome completely independently. And so he is an emperor. He gets to be a king, or he gets to be a dictator without anyone being upset about it. And so this is why we say that it's the beginning of the Roman Empire, because he is an emperor, right? So summarizing, how did the Roman Republic become an empire? After Mark Antony's death, the Senate gave Octavian nearly limitless power and named him Augustus, meaning the revered one. So he took it legally, right? So rather than having a coup or starting another civil war, he made and tricked and got the Senate to give him all the power. So it looked like he got his power legally, when in fact it really wasn't. Like, they really didn't have a choice. Okay, so that ends part 2. And then I'll start a third video that will answer the rest of questions 3, 4, and 5. So this section here answered all of the questions number 2. The first video answered question number 1. This video answers question number 2. I'm going to make a third video that will answer the rest of the questions. So now we get back a little less drama into what's going on in Rome.